Hello, everyone. This is Ari Page, and welcome back to the Thrive and Prosper podcast, where we talk all things entrepreneurship, real estate, and building the life you know you're meant for. So, today's guest is someone who's not just flipping houses, he's flipping mindsets and changing lives in the process. Brandon Lindsey is the founder of the Rehabber's Playbook, a powerful platform that's helping new and seasoned real estate investors build generational wealth through smart, strategic house rehabs. So, whether you're a total newbie, a burned out landlord, or someone who's ready to scale beyond a side hustle, this episode is your rehabbing playbook. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's great to be here, Ari, and it's great to be here with you and your team with Fund&Grow because I love so much about what you guys are doing, how you're giving people more access to capital and you're teaching them. You're not just giving it to them, you're teaching them. It's just an honor to be with you guys. So I appreciate you having me on.
Well, thank you so much, Brandon. So, for everyone that's on, we're just going to go ahead and start at the beginning. And I'm going to ask Brandon some questions, and we're just going to learn about the Rehabber's Playbook. So, let's go all the way back to the beginning and tell us, Brandon, what was the moment or experience that pushed you into real estate and more specifically into rehabbing and flipping houses?
I I actually love this question because I don't talk about it that often, surprisingly, but I am a victim, just like many other people, of the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. I was actually given that book by a buddy, and he just handed it to me. He said, "You should read this, see if this is something you're interested in." And I was immediately hooked. And it's so funny to think of how many people have been changed by that book. But as soon as I read it, it's like, how do we find the money? How do we find the property? Who do I need to partner with? Who do I need to talk to? And we ended up scrapping a bunch of stuff together. We're broke college kids. We didn't really have family money to work with. We just ended up pulling together, I guess, some family and friends, but it wasn't like a lot. It was just enough for like a down payment. And we purchased our first rental property in college and turned out to actually be a pretty good deal. But what's funny is when you go back to that, I remember purchasing that property and my buddy said our rehab budget's 20 grand. I said, okay, no problem. Friday, we close on the property, right? We celebrate on the weekend. We come to the property on Monday, and we end up standing outside of this property that needed work. And I remember just sitting there like, wait a second, what's our budget? He said 20,000. I said, what's the 20,000 for? And he was like, I don't know, like for the rehab. I was like, but for the kitchen, for the floors. He's like, I don't know, but we have 20 grand. And that was kind of like one of the first learning lessons to say, we're not just in a real estate business. There's like a really big construction element to it as well. So, I mean, I guess this is tying into where we started the Rehabber's Playbook. But that early story and that first property really was that light bulb moment. And I think everybody has it where you're standing outside of a property that needs a rehab and you just don't know who to call, how much it costs, what to do first, second, or third. And that was kind of the initial building blocks or just the initial experience that pushed me to say, hey, one day maybe we should build out a good resource to help people with this side of the business.
Yeah. Yeah, and you guys are huge now. So you've built the Rehabber's Playbook into this go-to resource. But what do you feel sets your approach, with the Rehabber's Playbook apart from all the other real estate education platforms that's out there? There's so many of them.
There is. And actually, I was almost growing up anti-guru in a way. And the reason I say that is because there's just so many people teaching wholesaling and creative financing and all these different things, right? And of course, I'm not anti-guru anymore. They're some of my best friends, but it was kind of that. I say that because when I first started thinking about building out a resource, I was like, I want to be different. If I want to do something, I want to be a little bit different. So we really focus on the construction side, the project management side, creating budgets, hiring contractors, creating a scope of work that contractors can follow and that you can make a budget off of, creating the schedule, building into new construction if you want to. We really go deep into that niche of just a project management side of the business. So that's what really separates us is we only focus on that. We're not, I think some people might think we're a flipping platform. We're not. Burr investors need to rehab the property at some point. New construction builders have a huge project management burden in their deals, in their real estate, right? So we just focus on that part, and that's what separates us for sure.
So, for someone who's, let's say, just getting started with little capital or experience, what's the first smart move they can make to break into real estate rehabbing?
For
Yeah.
funding, I mean, let's be honest, we're talking to somebody you should talk to, or I'm talking to somebody you should talk to. I think Fund&Grow is a great resource, and I'm pushing it to my group all the time because it's just a great way to access capital that's outside of some of your traditional ways. And when I say traditional, let's just say traditional for real estate investors, which is hard money, private money, right? And that's what you should be looking for, as well as maybe alternative funding like Fund&Grow offers. But in order to find those, you got to get in a good network. You have to go to your RIAs, you have to join groups. I tell people all the time, my business always levels up every time I join a group. Actually
So,
joining a group was how we ended up meeting each other, Ari.
yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it's just amazing. I join a group and I level up immediately within a couple months. It's crazy. So join groups, get around the right people, change your network, make sure you and let's just be honest, you go to a RIA, half of that room has money to lend, or at least people to partner with. So that's another thing I need to make sure I throw out there is don't only look for lenders, you should be looking for partners. I partnered on a lot of deals, and it is something you have to be careful with, but it's one of the best ways to start in this business is to partner with people.
It depends on the deal because a lot of times, like the Fund and Grow funding is specific for rehabbing, payroll, a variety of different things, but it may not be what someone wants to purchase the property with.
That's right.
And so there could be a variety of different tools that I'm sure you're making available for your clients to make sure whatever property, whether it's a multifamily deal or a residential deal, it depends on the type of funding you're going to use.
That's right. I think you said it perfectly is you have to have a tool belt of different things you can reach in and grab. Sometimes you need kind of that business credit that can help you with a handful of different things. And I know you guys enough to know that can even help with down payments as well. But you can also reach to the tool belt and say, I have a hard money lender who's going to do 10 and 2, 10 points to or 10% 2 points. Or I got a private lender who will do JV deals with me and we'll split the profit. You have to have all these tools because of what you just said. Every deal is different. You can't put a round peg in a square hole, right? You have to make sure you come to every different deal or project with a tool belt or a
Yeah.
toolbox. Yeah.
So, what's a common myth or misconception about flipping houses that, since you've been in this industry for a while, that you would love to just debunk once and for all?
Oh, wow. Um,
There
that's
might be a
such a
lot.
good, that's such a not a tricky question, a great question. Um, and then a handful of different things are coming to mind. I would say this, and I think it kind of goes to what I was just talking about, but maybe it's not even a myth, but it's just like a shift of ways people should look at this business. And I tell people all the time, and people look at me crazy, but if I was to tell you or anybody, and I would say, this is just as much, or at least a good portion of this business is construction. So this is just as much potentially a construction business as it is a real estate business. Some people look at me like I have two heads or that I don't know what I'm talking about. Other people are like, yeah, I feel you. That's kind of one thing. Again, maybe it's not a myth to debunk. It's just like something to throw on the table that people don't understand because that's how people get hurt. People get hurt from contractors running away with down payments or contractors ghosting in general. People get hurt because their budget was wrong or their scope of work didn't include the foundation that's falling apart. These are really how deals go bad. We tell people all the time, most deals die in the rehab. You make your money when you buy, that is true, but most deals are going to die in the rehab. And if you don't understand how critical that part of the business is, you can get hurt. So, hopefully that makes sense. And that's not, again, not really a myth to bust, but something I think is really not understood in this business as much as it should be.
Yeah. Yeah, when you're getting involved in rehabbing, you have to understand that you need to be a construction expert. You need to have access to those types of people and to those, unique skills, and not to do it, breaking people over the head where it's going to be so expensive that you've, lost all your money in the deal.
A
So yeah,
hundred percent.
that's huge.
Yeah. I tell people too, if you look at a construction business and you look at a real estate business, we both hire contractors, we both collect W-9s, we both look for insurances, have to carry our own insurances. We are all creating scopes of work. Like the business is almost the same. Just what we do has a very important real estate side to it, right? You have to know your ARVs, you have to know how to find the deals. But in between there is a construction business.
So, Brandon, I've watched a lot of your videos and you talk a lot about mindset, but how important is mindset in real estate investing?
This could be a whole other podcast, couldn't it? Um, Mindset, it is really everything. It is why me and you are sitting here today. It's why we have some of the freedoms we have. It's why we have some of the headaches we have. We have a different mindset that we bring to not just business, but I think life as well. And trust me, I don't have it all figured out. I'm constantly working on my mindset. I have pretty much everything everybody has had. I've had shiny object. And luckily, I think I've really beat that. I've had limited beliefs and I work on that all the time. I have, again, just all the things that people worry about with their own mindset when they're about to get into the business. But I would say for me, it's definitely limited thinking. I definitely have that problem. I limit myself. I'm like, well, what if we make this amount next year? And then I have business coaches or mentors that are like, where are you talking? Like, double that, triple that number. Where's your head at? I think people can do so much more than they really believe. Like, even people with the best, strongest mindsets, double it, triple it, right? Really think outside of the box and really start pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. So that would be what I would advise other people to get away from, and just constantly make sure you have full 100% belief in yourself. Just keep knowing that that's the goal, right? Is constant belief in where you could be, way more than probably what's in your mind right now, right? And that's where I think I need to get a lot of people out of too. And I think a lot of people I work with too are constantly, it's common for them to be looking for their first deal, and they give up after 6 months, 7 months, 8 months looking for their first deal. I know people who took years to get their first deal. And after they got their first deal, years later, they're some of the best real estate investors, strongest, most successful I know. So limited belief will be one of them. Number two is 100% not giving up. Okay. Do not give up. That's one of the biggest things. It's very often that you can come home after a bad day and just be like, all right, that's it. I'm getting a job. And every now and then I'll joke with my wife about that too. I'm like, I'm getting a job. She's like, no, you're not. That's not the way you are. But just never give up. And I truly believe if you never give up, you will always be successful.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in the concept of the law of attraction.
Mm,
So to me, that's huge what you're talking about. So that's why when you were talking about mindset and a lot of your different videos, it really, rung a bell for me because I know that's such a huge part of doing business. It's like, imagine that there's this field that you need to walk through and the grass is so high that you can't see the other side, but you're trying to get to the other side because that's in this metaphor, that's where the new deal, the house deal that we've been searching for a year, right? So it's imagine that you're walking through this field, but you've never been to the other side before. You've never got that deal before. You don't know how it feels or where to go. You don't have any guidance or anything. And so at first you might walk in circles. The grass is over your head. You have no idea how to get to the other side. But then once you figure it out the first time, isn't it a little bit easier to get there the second time? And by the third time and fourth time, now there's a path. And that same concept applies with our minds because that's how neural engrams work in terms of going somewhere that we've never experienced before. And so it feels so out of pocket. Like it feels so anxiety ridden and worrisome to go and to do things that we've never done before in our mind. But once we've done it and we've gotten there and we've passed through that field a few times, we've got to the deals and we've made it happen. Now we have a pathway. And that pathway is so much easier to walk. And that's an actual literal thing that's happening in the mind in terms of engrams forming together on the subjects that you believe. And so once you've done it a few times, it's so much easier. And that's where the part that you were just talking about, you can't give up. Otherwise, you won't make it to the damn other side. So,
Dude, I'm smiling the whole time because I love that analogy so much. That's 100%. And I try, like, if there's one thing I try my best to do is make sure people know all of these things are natural. Like when you say you're walking in circles in that field, you feel like you're spinning your wheels. We've all been there. I
yeah,
constantly still feel like I'm there, every time I jump into a new venture. But at least next time I jump into a new venture, I know it's kind of a thing that comes with the territory.
yeah.
I love that. That's great. And I
And
love
you have the
love attraction.
experience. You have the experience of actually being, you're like, you know what? This isn't a journey that I'm going to go halfway and then say, I'm not there. Let me turn around and go back home. You're like, no, I've made this journey before. I felt like I was in the middle at this point, and then I made it to the other side.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's like so often people start on a journey. Let's say that you're going, to California to go on vacation, and I'm in Florida. Would I ever get halfway to Texas and then say, I'm not at my destination? Can you believe I'm not there yet? It'd be like, no, any reasonable person knows that if you've gone in the direction of your goal and you've put in the fuel that needs to take you there, don't get discouraged halfway there. And in the case of a vacation on the way to California, of course it makes sense. You wouldn't turn around to Texas and go home. But how often do we get halfway to that first deal and then you see clients turning around like, oh, I can't do this?
And I think that speaks to the law of attraction too. Because if you are really putting your mindset in what that destination is, because when you're traveling to California on vacation, you know what that's probably going to feel like and look like and be like to a certain extent. So you can put yourself in that position and say, okay, I'm getting there, right? But I just think it's so big, and I'm this kind of guy, meditate on it, pray on it. I'm constantly thinking of what that feeling's going to be once I get to that goal. And that's the thing about life and business anyways, you're going to get to that goal, you're going to set another goal. So it's just going
Yeah.
to be this constant thing. But you have to put yourself in the shoes of you at that future pace or place and feel that, know that's there, know that's a possibility because people don't really do that enough. And what that does is it limits your belief, right? So all these mindset things really tie together, I think.
Yeah, they really
Yeah.
do. So, getting back to the Rehabber's playbook, I wanted to know what was your most challenging rehab project? And overall, what did your most challenging, not the easiest and the best one, the one you made the most money from, but what was the one that was the most challenging one? What did it teach you? And hopefully it wasn't that first one that you already told us about with the 20,000.
No, that definitely wasn't. I've taken on some big ones. And you know, I'll say this. As I think about this question, I think a lot of times, or a lot of my most challenging ones, had to also do with the people I was working with. So that's interesting. Just kind of something that pops in my mind as I'm thinking of the most challenging ones. But I'm not going to throw out anybody. I've had great partners and everything. Most challenging. I did a project where we purchased the house and the person who purchased the house before us didn't pull permits and they remodeled everything,
Mm,
right? And in order for us to fix that, it was incredibly challenging. And the inspectors didn't trust us and like us. And we were trying not to have to completely tear apart the house and everything. What it really taught me was how due diligence is the biggest part of this business and what we do. You really have to do your due diligence. You have to start making checklists because until you deal with a situation like that, where you purchase a house that wasn't permitted before, now you basically have to redo everything. You would never really know to look at your city or county records to see if it's been permitted before, right? That's something that you only really start doing after you've felt the scars, you have the scars of a deal like that. So
right.
that's more tactical, of course, is to say, you know, due diligence is what I learned from that, even though I always thought I did really good due diligence. Even there, it's like constantly making a checklist. And then another learning lesson from it is just documenting everything, making sure you don't make mistakes. Some of my mentors, they have journals that they do every single project. At the end of the project, they do a big journal, they store it. Now with ChatGPT and AI, you can store it in a GPT if you want. So there's so many ways that you can use documenting your process and what you've learned and your challenges in the future as well. Now, with that too, I started off that answer by saying my most challenging was because of people I've worked with. And I'll just, without going into detail on those deals, I'll just give advice on this. Look, you should always do your due diligence on people too and vet them out as much as you possibly can. But we can't always be perfect with that, right? I've always thought I was good at it, and I end up in not horrible situations. I've never really been burned bad or anything, but just situations that aren't fun. And I think that's part of getting into partnerships sometimes too. But my biggest thing is if you ever get into that situation, just take a deep breath, relax, know when you have to exit and exit if you have to. You know, get out of it if you have to. And just make sure you always get your documentation up front. Contracts, agreements. I learned this lesson consistently with
Yeah.
not getting everything, absolutely everything in writing.
Whether they're friends or family or a client, get it in writing, put it on paper.
It doesn't
Yeah.
exist if it's not in writing. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So with everything changing like it is nowadays, with especially with the Iran and Israel thing, and we just like it seems like the economy is one day it's like, oh, it's red hot, and the next minute it's like, why is nobody buying? With the market constantly changing, how do you stay ahead and adapt your strategies?
I S Such great questions, Ari. With, I will say, I'll tell you about a lesson I learned back in 2021. Okay, COVID hit. We actually stopped buying. Our company was just really worried about what was going to happen, right? And we stopped buying. And as we stopped buying, we saw people making a killing off of just buying houses. I know people who are just buying houses, not fixing them up, not buying them at a discount, reselling them in 4 or 5 months and making like 30 grand. You know, like it was so strange. But we stopped buying at that time. And then, turns out years later when you thought it was going to actually soften up and get better and kind of get back to normal, we're still not normal. And you're right, we're constantly going up and down. And as a matter of fact, in our group, we talk about this once a month. We get a couple lenders on, we get some of our finance experts on, and we talk about the market just to keep up with it. And at the end of every call, we all give the advice, and it'll be the advice I give to this podcast too, is just don't ever stop buying. You can adjust, you can adapt, you can kind of change things. You can buy 6 houses this year instead of 12. You can buy six of those 6 houses are all now cosmetic renovations instead of flips, right? So you can make those small tweaks, and every tweak's going to be different for every market. But my biggest advice would be just never stop. I think people just see things like this, like I did, and they start walking away from the business or really saying, now I'm going to get into Bitcoin or now I'm going to get into AI or whatever it is, right? We adjust and adapt. And how we're adjusting and adapting is I like new construction right now. This is my market. I'm in Richmond, Virginia. We are still a strong real estate market right now. We're not seeing kind of what you're seeing down in Florida. And it's one of the strongest on the East Coast is what we're seeing. Now, there's still delays and houses are sitting for a little bit, but people are still making money. We're still making money. So we're kind of moving into a new construction direction. That's because we can. That's because we know our market. We know our build. But if I was to give advice for other people, how they can shift is try to stay towards affordable housing. I think affordable housing is a great place to be right now. Know where your market is, know where the median is, and try to find something at or under the medium that you can fix up and sell at or under the medium rather. And I think that'd be a great place to adjust and adapt to. So I know I went all over the place. I talked about how we've been adjusting. I talked about my advice with you adjusting. But overall, my biggest point there was just don't stop. Adjust and adapt, but never put your foot on the brake.
So I think you also even answered my next question, which was, what's the biggest mistake you see people make when trying to scale their rehab business? And I think that it might have been don't stop buying, don't
That's a
stop.
big one. Yeah, I'll give you one more.
Hmm.
I think people want to do too many different types of projects.
Mm.
I think people want to do full gut renovations and cosmetic renovations and new construction and multifamily. You should niche down more than you realize. Even if it's flipping or burr properties or whatever, niche down to those two or three projects. If you're really the best case scenario would be one or two projects because you're going to know those houses. You're going to know the surprises. You're going to know the budgets. Your contractors are going to know the process. So niching down is how you can really scale more in this business, more than people think. People think it's an unscalable business, but it is if you niche down. So that would be one piece that I would definitely throw out there too.
So, Brandon, you often talk about using real estate as a tool to create freedom. But what does freedom actually look like for you now, and how has that evolved since you started?
Freedom looks like now. So I'll announce here on the podcast, we are expecting our first kid this year. And
Congratulations.
it's literally in 3 weeks. So
Oh, wow.
I'm going to be tied up very soon. And thank you. Yeah, we're expecting. And honestly, I'm just that crazy guy who, since I probably was in high school, I was thinking about starting a family and being a dad. And I've always wanted to be at their baseball games, or in her case, at her ballerina, recital or whatever it is, whatever she ends up doing. We'll probably throw her in soccer too. We'll see how she takes it. But that's always been kind of my thing is family. Family's so important to me. It's everything to me. Family and faith. And this is all, those are my whys. That's really what it is. So when it comes down to, what am I in this for and what does freedom look like to me? It's so I can take some of my time and resources and money to be with family, support family, help family, and also be in my faith as much as I possibly can. So, I mean, it's that simple. It never has changed. It's always been the same way since I was as young as I can remember.
Awesome. And that's probably why you are a strong entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think the strongest whys are the strongest entrepreneurs, or the strongest entrepreneurs have the strongest whys.
They do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So personally, what's next for you personally, as well as the Rehabber's Playbook, but like any exciting moves or expansions or projects upcoming?
Well, I definitely want to focus in on the Rehabber's Playbook. Up until kind of a couple years ago, I built a community and resources and tools around it, but I never put the gas on it. So I'm going to put the gas on it and see if this thing can take off. That's just, one thing for sure. The other thing is I just want to keep building houses. I want to help people build and rehab houses, and I want to do it myself. And I'm trying to stay that focused. It's easy, and I kind of mentioned it in the beginning. It's easy to have shiny object. I look at AI and I'm like, oh, all the things I can do. Trust me, I'm working on it. I look at writing books. I look at, whatever it is, all these different things. But if I was to really consolidate what I want to do, it's I want to build the Rehabber's Playbook. I love helping people. The community we built is just amazing. They're basically family to me at this point. And then I want to do it myself. I love doing it. I love keeping my contractors fed. I love the relationships I've built with them too and their families. So I hate to say I don't really have anything new. It's just kind of keep growing in that direction. More houses, more help, more people to help in the Rehabber's Playbook.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I got to thank you, Brandon, for joining me today. I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing all your insights. And I hope that people that are watching this, they reach out to you at the Rehabbers Playbook. What's a good way for people to reach out to you?
Find us at the rehabbersplaybook.com. If you go to join us, you'll find a book a call link there as well. So that's the easiest way. But you can also find me on Facebook. That's really the only social media platform I'm really heavy on. You could also find me on YouTube at the Rehabber's Playbook. So those are a few different places.
Excellent. Well, I encourage everyone to reach out to Brandon. And Brandon, thank you again so much for coming on here and sharing all of your insights and wisdom with us.
Thanks, man. I started off saying this. I want to say it again. Love what you guys are doing. It's an honor to be on your podcast, and I look forward to all of us growing together. I really do.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much, Brandon.
Yes, sir. Take care.
Take care.